Princess syndrome. I fully support my girlfriend, but I worry about drawing unwanted attention. Despite my concerns, she broke up with me. I had been with my girlfriend for about 5 months. We were casual friends since college, but only began dating after she graduated. We got along really well. When I say princess syndrome, I don't mean that she is spoiled or entitled, because she isn't. Her clothes seem to take over her life. She dresses like a sort of fairy tale princess on a near-daily basis, excluding at work. Long, frilly skirts, lace blouses, things like that. It works for her because she is very pretty and can pull it off. At first, I found it very endearing, but then I became aware of how much time she spends on her outfits. She runs a blog that has a sizable number of followers, and she is constantly posting outfit pictures, links to clothing items, and whatnot. She spends a few hours a day on her blog at least, then spends time sewing items for new outfits or for her Etsy store. When we go out, we get a lot of stares at what she's wearing. Her unique style draws eyes like moths to a flame. People can't seem to help themselves from taking a second look, sometimes even a third. It's not just the occasional glance either. I've seen people stop in their tracks, nudging their friends and pointing her out as if she were a celebrity sighting. I've also caught people sneaking pictures of her on their cell phones, which is incredibly invasive. Once, we were at a cafe, and a guy at the next table was pretending to text, but was clearly angling his phone to snap a photo of her lacy blouse and long flowing skirt. Another time, a group of teenagers at the mall giggled and took selfies with her in the background. This attention makes me uncomfortable. It feels like we're always on display, unable to enjoy a private moment together. I tried to address this with her, asking her to tone it down a bit. She took my request seriously, not wearing anything in her hair when we're out together. She stopped putting on her usual flower crowns and headbands. While this was a small change, it didn't solve the core issue. She still wore her elaborate outfits, and the sneaky photos continued. I didn't know how to explain that it wasn't about the accessories, but about the overall impression her outfits left on people. I have told her several times that I love her just the way she is, but she seems to brush it off each time. I try to emphasize how much I appreciate her unique style and creativity, and how much it drew me to her in the first place. I want her to know that my concerns come from a place of love and worry, not criticism. However, whenever I bring it up, she smiles, thanks me, and then moves on to another topic. It feels like she's not fully hearing what I'm trying to say, or perhaps she's choosing not to. I had hoped that when she started her new job in the career of her choice, she would become more serious, at least in her professional life. I thought the new environment might encourage her to dress more conventionally to match her colleagues and the office culture. Instead, her new boss and co-workers encouraged her to embrace her style. They love her whimsical outfits and even compliment her on them regularly. It's like she's become the quirky, fashionable mascot of the office, which only reinforces her choices. While I'm happy that she's found such a supportive workplace, I worry that people won't take her seriously or miss how kind and intelligent she is because they're too focused on her appearance. I fear that her clothes might overshadow her capabilities, making it harder for her to be recognized for her hard work and talent. I know how brilliant and compassionate she is, but I'm concerned others might not see past the frills and lace. How can I talk to her about dressing more appropriately without hurting her feelings? I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to come across as controlling or unsupportive, but I also want to protect her from potential judgment. I need to find a way to express my concerns that balances my love for her uniqueness with my hope for her to be seen for who she truly is. It's a delicate conversation, and I can think of ways to say one half of that, but it doesn't work with the other half. I get the point that it initially drew me to her, because it did, I thought. That's fair, I guess. I didn't think that it would be such a constant thing in her life, especially after she graduated. This is my problem. How do I ask her to dress more casually around me without her misinterpreting what I mean again, and also not hurting her feelings? I can think of ways to say one half of that, but it doesn't work with the other half. She doesn't need all the frilly stuff. She'd still look like a princess even in simpler outfits. Her natural beauty and grace are what truly shine through, not just the elaborate clothes she wears. I've told her she has an effortless elegance that doesn't rely on layers of lace and ruffles, yet despite my reassurances, she continues to adorn herself with intricate details and fairy tale ensembles. It's one thing for an artsy college student to dress alternatively. It's almost expected and embraced in that environment. But she's a 23-year-old woman now, stepping into the professional world where first impressions and appearances can carry significant weight. I worry that her whimsical wardrobe might not be perceived as appropriate for her age and the stage of life she's in. I feel like her clothing masks how smart she is and makes her appear shallow. When people see her in these fantastical outfits, they might not take the time to look beyond the surface. They might assume she's all about fashion and overlook her sharp mind and compassionate heart. I know how intelligent and thoughtful she is, how she can have deep conversations about a myriad of topics, and how much she cares about the people around her. But I fear that others might miss out on these qualities because they're too focused on her appearance. It's frustrating because I see her potential and the wonderful person she is, but I also see how society can be quick to judge based on looks. I want her to be recognized for her talents and kindness, not just her distinctive style. I wish she could find a balance that allows her true self to shine without the distraction of overly ornate clothing. She does think it's an attention thing. She says she doesn't care about what people think about her, but she spends so much time on her blog, replying to comments and such. I kind of doubt it. Her blog is a significant part of her life. She spends hours curating posts, taking photos, and interacting with her followers. If she truly didn't care about others' opinions, she wouldn't invest so much effort into maintaining her online presence. It feels like she thrives on the validation and admiration she gets from her audience, even if she won't admit it outright. She doesn't need to dress inappropriately by those standards. She is well-groomed and doesn't show much skin. Her outfits are always neat, and she takes great care to ensure everything is perfectly coordinated. But is it appropriate to wear lace dresses and flower crowns to the supermarket? It's one thing to see such attire at a themed event or a festival, but it's quite another in everyday settings like grocery shopping. Again, it attracts unnecessary attention. People stare, some whisper, and others even take photos. While she might enjoy the attention, it can be overwhelming for me. I want to be able to do mundane activities without feeling like we're putting on a show. I worry that this constant spotlight might also affect her in ways she doesn't realize. It's not just about the looks and comments. It's about being able to blend in when needed, to be taken seriously, and to avoid the judgments that inevitably come with standing out so much. Update 1. I didn't plan on updating, but things changed. I realized from my last post that I needed to be more supportive, but also communicate how she could dress down on certain occasions so we could both be comfortable. Well, I never got a chance to talk to her about it. Last week she called and wanted to stop by my apartment after work. When she got there, I offered to make dinner, but she said she couldn't stay and we had to talk. I jokingly asked if she was breaking up with me, and she looked really guilty. You can see where this is going. Last week, she called and wanted to stop by my apartment after work. Her voice sounded a bit off, not as cheerful as usual, but I didn't think much of it at the time. When she got there, she looked beautiful as always, dressed in one of her signature outfits, a soft pink lace blouse and a flowing floral skirt. But there was something in her eyes, a seriousness that made my stomach churn with unease. I offered to make dinner, hoping to lighten the mood and maybe turn the evening around. She usually loved my cooking, and I thought a nice meal might help ease whatever was on her mind. But she said she couldn't stay and that we had to talk. The way she said it with a quiet firmness made my heart sink. Trying to break the tension, I jokingly asked if she was breaking up with me and forced a laugh, expecting her to smile and reassure me that it was nothing serious. Instead, she looked really guilty. Her eyes dropped to the floor, and she bit her lip, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her skirt. At that moment, I knew where this was going. Even if I didn't want to believe it, she took a deep breath and started to explain. Her voice trembled slightly as she talked about how we were in different places in life and had different goals for the future. She said she had been thinking about this for a while, and it wasn't an easy decision for her. I mostly listened, too stunned to say much, but as she spoke, I found myself agreeing with her points despite the lump forming in my throat. It was a pretty amicable breakup, even though I felt blindsided by it. We both acknowledged that we cared deeply for each other, but had to be honest about our differences. We agreed to stay friends, though at that moment, the idea of friendship felt like a poor consolation prize for what we were losing. I've never been dumped before, and it's fucking awful. The weight of the conversation hung in the air as she left, and I was left standing there in the silence of my apartment, feeling more alone than ever. I've never been dumped before, and it's fucking awful. I'm having trouble with the whole social media thing post-breakup. I want a way to keep in touch with her, but as soon as her relationship status changed, all these alternative-looking guys have been liking her posts and commenting on her pictures. I don't think she's seeing these guys, but it still hurts. My friend wants to set me up on a date, but I don't know if it's a good idea. I'm still reeling from the breakup and unsure if I'm ready to jump back into the dating pool. The thought of starting over with someone new feels overwhelming. On one hand, I appreciate my friend's effort to help me move on, but on the other, I'm still processing everything that happened and unsure if I'm ready to jump back into the dating pool. I understood some of her reasoning for the breakup, mainly that I want to move out of the city once my lease is up, and I wanted her to move in with me. I had dreams of living somewhere quieter, maybe closer to nature, where life felt less hectic. I envisioned us building a life together away from the noise and chaos of the city. I was worried about the long distance, knowing how tough it could be on a relationship. I thought if she moved in with me, we could avoid that strain and grow closer. But she didn't want to leave the city. She loves the vibrant energy, the endless activities, and the opportunities it offers for her career and her blog. The city is part of her identity, and she couldn't see herself thriving anywhere else. She tried to explain how much the city meant to her, how it inspired her creativity, and connected her to a community that appreciated her unique style. I understood her point, but it still hurt to realize our visions for the future were so different. This fundamental difference in our goals was something we couldn't reconcile. It wasn't just about where we lived, but how we saw our lives unfolding. She saw herself staying in the bustling heart of the city, while I longed for a slower pace in a more serene environment. It became clear that our paths were diverging, and no amount of compromise could bridge that gap. She said something about me being controlling too, but I don't think that's the case at all. It stung to hear her say that because in my heart, I know that all I truly want is to protect her against all the potential harm that all the attention might attract. I've always been deeply concerned about how others might perceive her and the potential judgments they might make based solely on her appearance. My intentions were never to control her or dictate how she should live her life. I fell in love with her precisely because of her unique style and vibrant personality. However, seeing how people reacted to her, the stares, the whispers, and the sneaky photos, made me worry about her well-being. I feared that this constant attention could bring unwanted consequences, from simple misunderstandings to more severe risks. It wasn't about changing who she was. It was about ensuring she was safe and respected. I didn't want anyone to look down on her for any reason. Her clothes, while beautiful and distinctive, could sometimes overshadow her intelligence and kindness, making her appear shallow. When people see her in these fantastical outfits, they might not take the time to look beyond the surface. They might assume she's all about fashion and overlook her sharp mind and compassionate heart. I wanted her to be seen and appreciated for who she truly was, not just for how she dressed. Update 2. I was going through an old email and found this account again. I was surprised I could still log in, and even more, by the number of people who had reached out to me. While going through an old email, I stumbled upon this account again. It was a blast from the past that I didn't expect. I was surprised that, after years, I could still log in, and even more by the number of people who had reached out to me. Messages of support, advice, and shared experiences filled my inbox. It was both touching and overwhelming to see how many people had connected with my story and taken the time to respond. It's a bit embarrassing to relive this breakup from almost 10 years ago. Reading through my old posts and the raw emotions I poured into them brought back memories I had long since buried. I could almost feel the sting of heartbreak and the confusion that followed. But now, with the distance of time, I can see things more clearly. In retrospect, it wasn't meant to be, and I think I was reeling more from getting dumped than the actual loss of the relationship. At the time, the breakup felt like the end of the world. It was my first time being dumped, and my ego took a significant hit. The shock and pain were intense, and I struggled to make sense of it all. But looking back now, I realized that our paths were always meant to diverge. We had fundamental differences in our life goals and values that would have eventually pulled us apart, even if we had stayed together longer. What I initially perceived as a deep loss was more about the bruising of my pride and the fear of the unknown future. The relationship itself, while meaningful, wasn't the perfect match I had convinced myself it was. We cared for each other, but we were ultimately incompatible in ways that mattered. It's clear to me now that the breakup was a necessary step for both of us to find the right paths in our lives. Reflecting on it all, I can see how much I've grown since then. I'm 33 now and married to a wonderful woman who's 31. We've been married for 4 years, and I couldn't be happier with how our life together has unfolded. My wife is amazing. She's kind, thoughtful, and has a zest for life that is truly infectious. One of the biggest lessons I learned from my past relationship was the importance of supporting my significant other's hobbies and passions. It's something I've embraced wholeheartedly in my marriage. My wife loves running and baking, 2 hobbies that bring her immense joy and fulfillment. She's an avid runner, participating in local marathons and relishing the thrill of pushing her limits. Early morning runs have become a cherished part of her routine, and I admire her dedication and discipline. On weekends, our kitchen transforms into a baking haven where she experiments with new recipes, filling our home with the delightful aroma of freshly baked goods. Her passion for baking has become a source of happiness for our family, and our friends eagerly await her latest creations. We have a daughter who is turning 3 this year. She's the light of our lives, and watching her grow has been an incredible journey. As a father, I want her to be free to express herself however she likes, as long as it is safe. Whether she wants to dress up as a princess, become an astronaut, or anything in between, I want her to feel supported and loved in her choices. Encouraging her to explore her interests and express her individuality is something I am deeply committed to. I would do anything for them. My wife and daughter mean the world to me, and their happiness is my top priority. I've learned to be more patient, understanding, and supportive, qualities that have strengthened our bond as a family. The lessons from my past have shaped me into a better partner and parent, and I strive to create a loving environment where we all feel valued and respected. Supporting my wife's passions and nurturing our daughter's creativity has brought us closer together. It's a dynamic and joyful household filled with love, laughter, and the occasional flower fight during baking sessions. I'm grateful for the journey that led me here, and for the beautiful family I am fortunate to call my own. I am still friends with my ex on social media. We don't talk, but we like each other's posts. She is married to another woman now, who also dresses differently. It's not as frilly as she used to dress, but still unusual. Her pictures look like something out of Anne of Green Gables. She seems very happy on their farm together. In your opinion, what do you think about this story? Please leave your comment below to let me know.